First, you have to have an idea. And sometimes that can be the hardest part. Don't expect something fully formed to just leap out of your head ready to be worked on. A lot of the time for me, it's more like trying to make fire. You strike and you strike and you strike until finally you get this tiny piece of cinder that you have to nurture and stoke into an ember, and finally, a blazing idea. How do you get these little cinders? You have to watch stuff. And I mean a lot of stuff. I don't mean just anime. My bookworm video was actually adapted from a script based on Claire Saffit's from Bon Appetit. You can get inspiration from anywhere. I would go as far to say that the best inspiration comes from places tangential to your main interest, or where you'd least expect. So watch anime, yes, but also go see movies, read books, or even watch people attempt to make famous snacks gourmet. For this particular video, I was interested in the idea of updating something old to be more in line with the times. I'd recently seen Belle, and it made me think of this one Kanye West song that kind of wasn't a song at all. It was part of a commentary by Gil Scott-Heron, and Kanye had basically remixed it. His point was, despite being from the 70s and in response to a specific event, it was every bit as applicable to 2010. I found that powerful, and that Belle did something similar, finding ways to keep the soul of the message but refresh it for how the internet reshaped those problems. Getting the idea is the initial spark. For your fire to grow, you need tinder and you need oxygen. Namely, you need material to work with and the follow-through to breathe it into life. For some videos, my thoughts are sufficient tinder. I can take my personal opinion about Frieren and make a video, or how I related to the New Game Girls. But for other projects, some research is necessary. You should never set out with a specific idea in mind that you cherry-pick examples to support. Rather, keep an open mind and search broadly. I looked for general Beauty and the Beast analysis, as well as interviews Hosoda had done about Belle, and even his AMA. I found some great tinder to burn. Mise en place is a French cooking term meaning everything in its place. It involves gathering all of the ingredients ahead of time, rather than grabbing as you go and haphazardly measuring like I do. I find that this really helps direct the video. I take the little bits and pieces of notes I have so far and arrange them into an outline, solidifying the thesis and creating topic sentences for each point along the way. If you've ever thought my transitions from thought to thought were done well, I credit that to this practice. Then you need to write. In the beginning, it's tempting to edit as you go, creating the perfect sentence, and then the next one, and then the next one, until you have a perfect essay. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, and you would take a million years for a half-decent script. For me, the most important thing is simply getting words down, and be liberal with it. For my first few drafts, if I'm debating wording, I just write down both. It's easier to overwrite and pare down later. Once you have it all laid out, you can see which areas need more focus, or could benefit from being moved around. There are a couple of different approaches to this phase of the process. Me, I'm a rewriter, meaning I will finish a draft, open a new document, and proceed to copy over what I just wrote onto the blank page. As I'm doing this, I find that ideas get refined, I stumble upon pretty phrasing, and I'm able to cut away whatever is unnecessary. I'm also continually narrating chunks of the essay as I go too. After all, this is a video script. You're gonna read it. You have to make sure it's conducive to being spoken. I've changed a lot of things just because I knew it'd be a tongue twister or hard to pronounce, though that hasn't stopped me before. Besting her at the review scenes. There's a reason why her review is named The Review of Longing. Alverst. During this time, don't downplay the benefits of shopping the script around either. Sometimes you need a fresh perspective, and sometimes I just want to make sure I'm not crazy and that my idea makes sense. Time for this part varies. It could take 2 drafts, or 6 like Belle did. Regardless, you finally have a finished product. Now it's time to put a voice to the words. I use a sort of inefficient process that I could probably change, but I'm used to it at this point. I use Audacity for the initial recording. It's a free, sort of Spartan program, but robust where it needs to be. I sit down in a quiet room with some water and go through the lines until I mess up, And it was such an and she has an effect on Suzu on hoping Belle will be the one who break the curse. Who break the curse. Testing. Jodan janai nai wa Tokyo Shanera. And it is ultimately the reason why our heroine falls for him. Why our heroine falls for him. A lot of hard vowels. And it is ultimately the... Then I'll take a breath, maybe a sip of water, and start again from there. I might redo a sentence in a couple of different ways to see how it sounds. Get ready to listen to a lot of your own voice, both now and in the future. Eventually though, you're done. I usually apply some basic compression and noise reduction at this point. Be sure to capture what's known as room tone, which is the bass background noise in your room caused by fans and stuff, so that you can more easily extract it from your recording. Then I put the whole thing in Adobe Audition. I know, going from one audio program to another might sound weird, but Joe from Pause and Select taught me this cool trick to remove the dreaded saliva clicks. Those happen when you open your mouth or when it's particularly dry, and it can make a bunch of sounds you normally don't hear but get picked up on mic. With Audition, you can go through and use their heal feature to dampen those as much as possible. Audition is also generally easier to move around in than Audacity. I use this opportunity to silence breaths in between pauses and change the basic timing of the narration. Once you have the audio squared away, it's video editing time. Once again, remember the concept of mise en place. The most time-consuming part of the editing process is coming up with an idea, but discovering you don't have the video file. Then you have to go obtain the file, convert it into a workable format, etc., etc. Imagine repeating this like 10 times. It quickly adds up, and most of that is loading bars, so try to have everything together in the beginning. I usually write little notes on what I can use visually during one of the later drafts. Once you have the video files obtained through whatever means, like, buying the Blu-ray legally and ripping the video file you purchased and own, you usually need to convert them into MP4 format for most video editors. I use a sort of fancy schmancy way through ffmpeg, but that involves some minor coding and changing your system path variable, whatever that is. If you're just starting out, a way many swear by is a program called Handbrake. You simply start it up, select the file or folder, and add them to the queue. You can even burn in subtitles if you'd like, which is good to demonstrate specific points if it depends on what's being said. However, this does take a good bit longer simply because it's re-encoding the entire video frame by frame. After you've got everything converted, it's time to strap in for the long haul. For the longest time, I used Sony Vegas, but I've recently switched to DaVinci Resolve and I couldn't be happier. I think the workspace is pretty intuitive once you get used to it. You can go ahead and import all your files. I lay down my audio first since the clips will be roughly timed to the sentences, and of course what you say affects what you show. That's actually one of the hardest parts, knowing what to show when. This is why I really stress that preparing a game plan will save you a lot of headache. Having an encyclopedic knowledge of anime helps too, so you can go, in episode 3 of Gochiusa at 3:23 in 10 milliseconds, Karen looks mildly concerned, I can use that. Many times you won't have anything that perfectly matches what you're saying, whether that be because you're talking about a non-anime topic, or are in a transitory sort of part. And honestly, I just kind of scrub through and choose random moments I like from the episodes. I won't go into the real nitty-gritty, but here are some guidelines. When I first started, I would crossfade literally every clip, but your video will flow better if you can avoid it. You also want to avoid ghost frames, or having a cut directly before another or leading into a fade. Don't be afraid to speed up or slow down clips as necessary. Sometimes I'll take the last frame of a clip and use a screenshot to extend it enough. Changing the speed of clips also helps with the most important consideration, avoiding content ID. Sure, you could argue that it's fair use, which it is, and go really lax on your editing. But trust me, instead of getting a claim, submitting a dispute, getting denied, submitting a counter notification, blah 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 blah, just avoid triggering the copyright system in the first place. That means keeping your clips to about 10 to 15 seconds and avoiding things like OPs and EDs. After you've slaved away at your video to the point where your own voice makes you nauseous, you're almost kind of sort of not really partway there. Honestly, I have to admit that these next parts aren't my strong suit, and I can sometimes overlook them. First is music. I think most people appreciate hearing a backing track to narration, and it can really amp up the impact of moments throughout your script. I currently use a royalty-free service called Envato, but many people I know just use soundtracks from anime they enjoy. In the past, I've leaned on the more orchestral stuff from shows like Yuru Camp, Nananbiori, and Sangatsu no Lion. It does increase your risk for copyright strikes though. You want the volume to be noticeable but not overpowering your voice. I usually go around -24 to -18 decibels. Adding and timing music is the last step before rendering your video, and while you wait on that, you can work on the actual most important part of the whole thing: title and thumbnail. This is something that I really neglected for a long time, and I underestimated how much it really matters. You could have the greatest video of all time, but without the proper framing and marketing, no one will watch it. It'd be like you made nothing at all. I know a lot of people just make things for their own sake, but I think being a creator means always having a slight gnawing feeling within that craves validation, so let's give it our best shot. Here's an example of how much this matters. This is the original title and thumbnail for my video about ReZero and Hamlet. I thought, I'm making this huge video focusing on this particular Subaru speech, I'll let the words do the talking. I thought it was clever and that the singled out words were provocative enough to draw people in. Oh, and throw in some unnecessary alliteration into the title and I couldn't go wrong, right? And the thing is, it didn't do like horrible. Maybe slightly worse than my average video. A lot of them get an initial burst and plateau, and I always thought to myself, oh, I guess that was a 2K view sort of video. Then, randomly one day, I decided to change my old titles and thumbnails. This is the new one. Just a simple screenshot from the show, albeit dramatic, and a title that described the video still but was a little punchier. It took a second to be redistributed throughout people's recommendations, but after that it took off like a rocket. And now that many more people get to see my work, which at the end of the day is still a nerdy as hell comparison to Shakespeare of all things. Nothing about the content changed, just the gateway to it. So it might feel a little hard to do when you're in the home stretch, and it's tempting to slap something on real quick and get it out of there. But don't make my mistake, go get those views. If the content is good, there's no such thing as just an X view video. If you're watching this video, I hope that, like me, you've got some strange stirring within you that drives you to put pen to paper or finger to keyboard. I'm a shy person, so there's a strange incongruence to publishing videos for thousands of people to see, some that are really personal. But in a weird way, it's part of who I am. As if there's some small flame within wanting to flicker and be seen. And I hope that in some small way, I've been able to help stoke yours. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little peek into the process. I started making my own videos after watching a similar how-to video from Trixie. And in Trixie fashion, it was almost completely unedited, containing even the 4chan browsing that came with waiting for something to download. Just like how that sparked my desire to make something of my own, I hope this can do the same for someone else. If you need any pointers, feel free to reach out. And even if you don't want to create anything, I hope this was entertaining regardless. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If you want to support me further, you can donate to my Patreon. Special thanks to Cocoon BG, Rakuku, Righteous Red Ted, Eniarioke Maystuck, Chimu Yude, and Yaralamore for their support. And of course, if anything I said was wrong, I'm sorry. I must have stuttered.